Hey guys, happy Monday. Hi, I'm so glad you're here with me. So today I'm talking about the 2 steps to overcoming the fear of making a mistake or making a failure, right? Um, so here's the thing. We have got to really focus on why we are afraid to make mistakes, okay? I really find that a lot of the women that I work with have this, okay? And I myself was there just a few short years ago. And I always felt like life was on the verge. I was just on the verge of a meltdown all the time, right? I didn't want to do anything new. I didn't want to do anything that pushed me out of my comfort zone. I just felt stuck all the time. Life was stuck. And I felt imprisoned by it, right? And all because I was fearing making a mistake. I was so scared to make a mistake and I was just frozen. I was frozen in time. And it didn't matter what it was, right? It didn't matter if it was, you know, should I call a friend today about, this issue that I'm having or how I'm emotionally feeling? And it didn't matter if it was starting a new business, right? It didn't matter what it was. Going back to school, going to law school, like none of that mattered what it was. I was so scared to death to make a mistake, okay? And I felt like I was on the verge of a meltdown all the time, because I felt so stuck. And it was like, I'm not living. And if you're afraid of making mistakes, I can guarantee that you're not living either. This isn't life, and you can't just have a life without living. I mean, what kind of life is that? I mean, if you're just going through doing the safe stuff all the time, then we're always comfortable and we're never going to push outside of our comfort zone and do what we're really here to do. Okay. So, a lot of this boiled down to me not feeling like I was enough, right? And if you are fearing failure, you are not going to feel like enough either. You're never going to feel like, that you're enough for what you need to do. Okay. So let's look at the 2 tips to overcoming this fear of making a mistake. Okay. So 1, I want you to learn about your emotions. Okay. What is it that's triggering you? What is it that makes you scared about taking the next step? Are you afraid that people aren't going to think you're perfect? I know that was a really big one for me, is that it was like, oh my gosh, I'll be outed and everybody will know that I'm not perfect. And the thing is that nobody's perfect, right? So learn about your emotions. What are your fears around getting out there? What is the thing that you're making up in your head as the worst case scenario? Like if I go back to school and I don't pass one of my classes, or I'm not able to go to college, or I'm not able to start this business, or do more art like I really want to do, or write books, write poetry, whatever it is. What is it? What is the worst case scenario that could happen in your mind around that? Okay. A lot of times I find that it boils down to a few certain things. It is about not being perfect. And coming to that realization and coming to that acceptance, especially when we think others around us see us as perfect, okay? Sometimes we fear that we can't emotionally handle the fallout of whatever it is. If it's, can I be emotionally prepared for if this doesn't work out? What is that going to look like? What is life going to look like on the other side if this doesn't work? Is everybody going to think I'm a fool? Is everybody going to make fun of me? What is it that's driving that for you? And also just your world crashing down, right? It just feels like the world is going to end because it's like everybody thinks I'm perfect right now, okay? And if you have that feeling, if you feel like you're worried that people aren't going to see you as perfect anymore, or if you think everybody in your life loves you because you're perfect, okay? So I want you to think about that for a moment. And I want you to realize that if they love you because you're perfect, okay, and nobody's perfect, right? Nobody. Or do they love you because you're you? Do they love you because you're perfect, or do they love you because you're you? And if you find that you really think that they love you because you're perfect, you don't need that kind of negativity in your life, right? We don't want to be on a pedestal. We don't want to be always on, right? We all want to have our own bad days. All want to have our own, like, things that we need to do, and processes. And I don't want to have to worry about being happy all the time. I don't want to have to worry about lifting everybody else up all the time. You have to be able to open yourself up to receive the kind of support that you give other people. Okay? So really look at that. If you are afraid that you're not going to be loved, journal about it. Dig in a little bit deeper. Do those people in your life love you because you're perfect or because you're you? Okay. The second tip is to use those emotions, those things that you write down, to observe what it is that you're fearful of making around this mistake, and reframe it and think about it in a different way. Okay. And a lot of times just writing it down in your journal is really going to help you, because it makes it tangible, right? So it's not just a thought floating in your head. Oh my God, people aren't going to like me. People aren't going to do this, that, and the other. So writing it down makes it tangible, and then you can kind of look at it with your logical brain and think, oh, you know what, that's kind of ridiculous. The people in my life do love me because I'm me and not because I'm perfect. Or, they don't expect me to be perfect. I expect me to be perfect, right? So we can kind of look at it from a different lens and with a different part of our brain. And, really think about how you can start working with this, okay? And I don't believe in, like, blasting through and, forcing your way through things, okay? I think fear is something to really look at and not to wallow in, right? But it's something that we need to observe about ourselves, okay? And worry is fear, okay? So if you're worried about what people might think, if you're worried about whether you're going to make it, right? It's fear. It's still fear, okay? It's a lack of faith that the right thing will happen. So that's the main thing, guys. Look at your emotion around it and what it is that you are feeling around that fear of the mistake, fear of failure. What is triggering that for you? A lot of times you'll find it does have a childhood root, okay? If you need help digging to that root, please, guys, give me a call. I'm an empowerment coach. I'm an energy healer, and you can find me at apriljoelson.com, okay? So there are these childhood roots that are like, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect to be loved, or I have to cater to everyone else, or I can't have what I want. A lot of times it's a deservingness. I'm not deserving of what I want. And the fear just keeps you stuck in your life, and it makes you feel like you're just frozen, right? And you're not living. So is it worth the mask of perfection? Is it worth the mask of perfection to keep yourself from living, right? You're sacrificing your life for the mask of perfection, and is that worth it? Is it worth it to you? Some people it might be, okay? Today it might be, but it might not be tomorrow, okay? Because every day's a new day. So just observe what it is, what are your emotions around it? Where is this coming from? And then reframe the way you think about it, and look at it, look at what your emotions are with a logical brain and say, you know what? The people in my life love me anyway. And if I fail, I fail, and it's not the end of the world. And, if you really reframe the way you look at it, and thinking about every mistake, every failure as a learning experience, right? If we ignore it and we stuff it away and we're like, ooh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want anything, to change. I'm just going to stuff it away and not think about it. Then you're not learning your lesson. And life is going to bring you a nice, lovely little gift later on for you to learn that same lesson. So make sure you're looking at what it is that you're fearing, and working through overcoming those things and reframing it, knowing that absolutely everything that happens is a lesson and it's a learning, and therefore it's not a failure. Okay? So I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks, guys.